This is Dharma Drops with your host, Rebecca Warfield. This podcast is a little bit about yoga, a little bit about life, and a little bit about whatever. And just as a warning, this podcast is unscripted, so that means I might regret a few things that I say. But hey, maybe I'll say some pretty awesome stuff too. Remember, these are musings, not truths. Buckle up, giddy up, because here we go. Awesome. Just a heads up. I did have a cup of coffee and I just did a handstand to get my act together before we recorded because I need a little pick me up because it is 7:07 p.m. on the East Coast. Ooh. And you ladies are 3 hours behind, right? You're in California?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So here we are with Dharma Drops podcast, and I'm your host, Rebecca Warfield. And I am trying to stay awake at 7:00 p.m. because I'm a loser and I'm an early bird. And I am with the ladies of Colibri Yoga Retreats with Juliette, Rossato, and Devon Young. Devon, let me get real Southern in here. Devon Young. How's it going, ladies?
Great. Thanks for having us.
You are so welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And so I've only done one other podcast that had 3 people. So the Dharma Drops audience is really used to having 2 people. So can you each, we'll start with you, Juliet, can you just say hi so we know who you are and what you sound like?
Yes. Hi, this is Juliet. I'm so happy to be on Dharma Drops today.
Yeah, we're happy you're here. And Devon, what's going on?
Hello. This is Devon. This is what I sound like.
Awesome. Now that we have that cleared up, so you ladies, it's your first time on Dharma Drops podcast, and I'm so glad to have you here. And you're all the way in California doing your thing. So can you share a little bit about what it is that you are up to these days with Colibri Yoga Retreats?
So we're both yoga teachers here in LA. And we lead international yoga retreats all over the world. And we just got back, a couple months now ago, we got back from Bali and we did a week-long retreat there. And so, we do usually 1 to 2 retreats a year. And besides that, we are full-time yoga teachers. So our whole world is yoga all the time.
You guys are busy, huh?
A lot of driving around in LA traffic.
Okay, look, I've been to LA. Well, I had a conference to go to in Hollywood. The poor Dharma Drops audience has heard me say this 1,000 times. But I had this conference to go to in Hollywood. And let me tell you what, that I grew up just outside of Washington, D.C., where the traffic is insane. But the traffic in LA was so bad.
What we're known for.
I could not believe it. And even the driver who was taking me to the airport, he was like, this is actually really bad for LA traffic today. And I was like, really? This is like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's so bad. And that's why everyone here needs to do yoga, because you just you turn into a terrible person if you have to drive in that traffic every day.
I mean, I get it. Look, I'm not from LA, but being born and raised in Maryland, we're known for a really aggressive driving. And when I moved to the South, all of these poor, sweet Southerners were probably horrified. My boyfriend one time was like, I think you're scaring that lady. You have to stop. So I get it.
That's so nice though, to have nice drivers. I can't even imagine. I need to move to the South.
Devon, you're a nice driver. I feel like you're a really nice driver. She's so chill. I really like driving with her.
So Juliet rides a bike all over town, which is even more impressive.
That's terrifying.
It is scary. But you actually get places faster sometimes. There's so much
for sure.
You just zip right by.
For sure. So first, I just want to clarify that just because Southern drivers are nice does not mean that they're good drivers. Okay. Sorry, Southeastern United States. This is just too much for me to handle. And 2, I used to ride my bike to work all the time. And sometimes a car would pass me. And then later on, I would see I beat them to the destination.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anyway, so going back to LA traffic and yoga, let me ask you, because the big thing that I think a lot of yoga teachers have to deal with is driving between classes all the time. So how long does it take you to drive around LA to get to your classes?
Well, since Juliet mainly rides a bike, I guess I'll answer for myself. But I try not to go further than 30 minutes. Like that's the most that I'll drive to make it worthwhile, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
But the good news is we also have a bajillion yoga studios here. So you can kind of center yourself around the studios that you want to teach at and go to, which is pretty nice. But yeah, for privates, I have like a radius that I usually won't go past.
That's good. That's good.
Same. The furthest private client I have is in Santa Monica, and it would probably take me 20 minutes without traffic, but it takes me 45 minutes, and that's the furthest I go. Everything else, I'm lucky and it's close by, and it can usually bike places within 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, I was just reading a really interesting article recently about the pay structure in yoga studios and stuff. And one of the big things that the author cited was that, none of the pay accounts for how much time yoga teachers have to spend going from class to class and studio to studio. So I think it's smart coming from just like a business perspective to give yourself that radius. Like, hey, if I have to go farther than this, it's not because my students aren't worth it, but it's just not worth my time at that point.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's so true. It's so true. What article was that? I really want to read it.
It was called, I don't know. I'll leave it in the show notes and I'll send it to you guys. But I do know it's not the most flattering article when talking about yoga studios and pay structures because it equates the yoga studio structure with multi-level marketing.
Okay. That was the New York Times article.
Mm-hmm. Was it a New York Times article? Okay. I'll post it in the show notes for those of you.
Interesting.
It is so interesting and a really big topic of conversation right now too in yoga studios is the pay structure, especially I think in areas like where you guys are in California,
right?
Where they're
in New York,
in New York, where there's these huge franchises. Like here in Wilmington, North Carolina, it's all small business,
which is great. So great.
Yeah, we love small business here, for sure. But it's an interesting topic of conversation and that's circulating in the yoga communities right now.
Yeah,
for sure.
I was so glad when that article came out, just because I think more people need to know about it. I don't think students, especially, are aware of. Obviously, we're so lucky to have this job, but I think it's good that people are talking about some of the downfalls and the hardships that come along with it, which is definitely, that's a major issue. And,
sure.
I think from that article kind of spurred, did you hear that YogaWorks joined a union in New York?
Yeah, so I didn't know that they actually joined a union. The last I had heard is they were trying to form the union. So that's really super interesting.
They voted on it and it passed. So I think that will hopefully just change things for the better in the future. I think it's an interesting and hopefully a positive thing for yoga teachers.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And necessary. So necessary. I feel like it just all expanded way too quickly and then kind of got out of hand. And we were all...
and things always get a little bit tricky too when we're talking about things like yoga and spirituality, and then business gets involved. It's a hazy sort of world, And the same thing happens. So I also teach at a university. I teach English and yoga actually at UNC Wilmington. Yeah, it's super fun to teach college students yoga. It sounds, because teaching college students English is a little bit like someone poked my eyes out for me feeling.
I can't imagine.
But teaching yoga is actually really fun and rewarding at UNCW. But it's sort of the same thing. Like educators aren't paid that much.
Of course.
So people always say things like, but you do it because you love it.
Right. Of course.
And the same thing happens in the yoga world. Well, you do it because you love it and because I have bills, people.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's very true.
It's all true. It's both true.
We love it, but we also should be paid fairly for it. Any job, I believe that, everyone's working hard out there, and we all deserve just to, be comfortable and put food on the table.
For real. Have you guys read the book, You Are a Badass at Making Money?
Yeah, actually.
Say, I just read the first one that was just, you are a badass, but not about
You are. You are a badass. But she talks a lot about this too, that like if we want to be whatever it is we want to be, yoga teachers, educators, whatever, in order to serve our purpose in this lifetime, it will require money to do that. So
Right.
just saying out there for all the people who want free yoga, just remember Devon and Juliet are trying to deal with LA traffic.
Thank you. Yes.
You're
And we
welcome.
put work and love into our classes. And,
Yes.
we actually love our students and, want them to get better and want to help them out. So we're in it for the right reasons. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So speaking of commuting and travel, I guess the big irony of the LA traffic and the conversation about commuting is you guys are traveling actually all over the world to teach yoga. So can you share a little bit about what is it that you guys are up to with Colibri Yoga Retreats?
Yeah. So we started our business in 2016. I think we had our first retreat 2017. And we really wanted to make yoga retreats accessible to everyone. Everyone thinks you have to be this, super experienced, advanced yogi to go on a yoga retreat. And I think that a lot of people still, when they hear yoga retreat, say or think to themselves like, I don't do yoga, I can't go on a yoga retreat. But so many people can benefit from this kind of vacation / retreat. So I think that was like our main thing, and we just
to make them affordable,
right?
More affordable. It's obviously a privilege, but a lot of retreats are like $3,000, and we really tried to make it so that more people could come.
Yeah, and I mean, beyond that, there's just so many benefits to taking your mat outside of the studio and into a completely foreign country where you are maybe a little bit outside of your comfort zone, or you're finally away from your daily routine or your family that you have to take care of, all of your responsibilities. So you have less distractions and really a full 5 to 7 days to really just think about yourself, focus on you, and connect to new people that are also there. And everyone's there usually for somewhat of the same reason. Everyone comes because they are perhaps trying to grow or working on something or working through something. So it's a great community.
For sure. I've been on one yoga retreat, and then I held a yoga study abroad for UNCW students. And one of the things that I noticed about being on a yoga retreat is that I wasn't really doing anything different than I would say I would do in my regular life in terms of my yoga practice, but everything else in my life was pushed off to the side, and that's all I really had to do. And it's like the benefits of the yoga practice felt just exponentially bigger. And I remember specifically the last time I went on a yoga retreat in Mexico, before I left thinking, oh yeah, this is what I need to do in my yoga practice. These are the things I need to do in my daily life in order to find some sort of balance and stasis on the day to day.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. We're like, what makes it different? We do yoga all the time. A lot of our students come every day. So what makes it so special to go somewhere else and do yoga every day? And it's totally that idea of being somewhere where you can not have to even think about or worry about your regular life. And so you can drop in instantly. And like, we see it day one, traveling is always hectic. People are tired. And by that morning, people wake up and you can just see this, like everything's dropped off of them and you can instantly relax and really, focus on yourself and not have to think about your kids, your husband, unless he's there, I guess he's welcome. And you can really, like let go a lot easier than it is in LA traffic or wherever you live in day-to-day work life. And it's such a special way to grow your practice and to have something to do on vacation. I don't know. When you're at the beach, it's like, how much can you just lay around? Like, it's really nice to have, we organize some things and have all these options for people. So then you can kind of build your own adventure each day.
I think the phrase that you use, drop in, is really important because I hear yoga teachers talk about dropping in all the time. In fact, I'm having a memory right now of being in yoga teacher training and the instructor saying things like, the sun salutations is where we drop into the practice, but it's so hard to drop into the practice when you're rushing to get there. As soon as you have to leave, you have 500 other things to do. And so the experience, at least for me, of dropping in my yoga practice, sometimes it's like, I'm in, then I'm out, I'm in, then I'm out, I'm in, then I'm out, and to be somewhere and to not have to deal with all that other stuff, that's dropping in.
Yeah, totally. I so much agree.
Yeah. And nature definitely helps with that too. You're just it helps to get you to the now, and that's dropping in, I think, is being present, and nature for sure helps with that. We go to this place in Mexico where there is no cell service, there's no Wi-Fi, so all you hear is nature. There's birds and crickets and I don't know what other kind of animals you hear in the jungle, but there's no monkeys in that jungle, but it's a beautiful jungle and you can just really, feel at peace kind of immediately. And there is that deeper connection that you can build towards yourself and towards the world around you. And I feel like being in that kind of scenery definitely helps and makes it way easier, quicker to get there.
Yeah, for sure. And it's especially too, because you're so, at least for me, I'm so used to my regular surroundings. Like, for example, I live at the beach. I'm just a few miles from the Atlantic Ocean. I could ride my bike if I wanted to, but I don't, I'm not much of a beach person.
Is that Wrightsville Beach?
Yeah. How'd you know that?
Because I've been there before. When I
Why?
saw Wilmington and I was like, oh, wait, I think I've been there. I went to visit my friend Carrie Moscow, who used to live right there
I feel like I know Carrie.
I'm sorry. I texted her today and was like, do you know her? Because you guys are from the same place. And she couldn't quite place you, but she looked, and you guys have like 54 friends in common or something. So you must have crossed paths.
I feel like I know her.
Yeah.
I have to know her.
Yeah. And she actually just got over breast cancer. She's a breast cancer survivor at 33. So I'm sure you've heard of her or seen each other. You guys will have to be Facebook friends after this.
I know for sure. And what's very strange too is I just recorded a podcast episode with my friend CA, who just got through her last chemotherapy treatment for breast cancer at the age of 30.
Gosh, that's crazy.
I know. She actually did a podcast episode for Dharma Drops a few weeks ago. It was probably a couple months ago now. So I don't know, what a weird small thing. I guess going back to the whole conversation though about yoga and traveling, it is a really small world. And you just never know who knows who. And I think it's just, this whole conversation is a testament to that. We are connected. And I think that's part of the point too. Like, you go on a yoga retreat, you connect with nature, you meet people, you meet people that know other people that you know.
Yes, that always happens. Isn't that so funny?
Something magical about going on a retreat and calling in, even though we don't sit down and call in anything, but it just happens that we have these groups that completely get along. Like, somehow they have all like a similar background or, something similar going on in their lives or some similar interests. And it's like, wow, how did this happen? We just brought in all these people that totally go together. It's so awesome.
Yeah, there's always coincidences and like they're all, remember we had a mother-daughter that came and her name was Darla. And that's not very common. But then a guy on the retreat, his dog was named Darla. I mean, it's like such silly things like that, but it's like, you're instantly just connected.
And I think that maybe what I gathered from that is that we're seeking that sort of connection, like on the day to day, be like, oh yeah, my dog's name is Darla, whatever. And on the next thing. But in those experiences when we're with strangers, we're like looking for things that bring us together.
I think that story got actually even weirder because then she goes, oh, that's funny. And my cat's name is Eric and his name was Eric.
Oh, that's right.
That's why it was so crazy.
That's right.
I had a friend who was traveling in Africa and she was on a bus and she was talking to someone about these two dogs, and the people in front of her on the bus turned around and they were like, are you talking about such and such's dogs? And she was like, yes. And it turns out that they all knew this same person and they were in Africa. They're like from different places, but they happen to have a mutual friend, and they discovered it through like this conversation about dogs on a bus in Africa.
That's so, really there's a good podcast. I can't remember which one it is now, but if you looked up podcast coincidences, they have some that will blow your mind. I'll have to look it up and let you know which one it is. But man, yeah, that stuff is so cool. It just goes to show how, small it all is. Or how small we are. I don't know.
I think both, right? It's all, we're all small and we're all big,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you ladies are taking people all over the world and taking the practice off the mat. So can you share a little bit about what it is you're doing in terms of taking the practice off the mat and why?
Well, obviously you teach yoga and it's not just all about the poses. We hope that all of our students, whether they come to our classes, whether they're doing their own practice, whether they're coming on retreats, that the practice makes us all better people. I really believe if everyone did yoga, can you imagine Donald Trump doing yoga? Like, I just think the world would be a better place. I think we're really moving in that direction. So we encourage people on our retreats to not only grow their physical practice, which obviously happens, but to kind of, take the yoga off the mat. So each retreat we try and, we do organize a volunteer afternoon where, depending on where we're at, it could be anything from a beach cleanup or, we'd love to visit a school and teach the kids yoga. We usually work with the resort and find something that's nearby, so that we're not just going into these places and, throwing a bunch of money around and leaving without ever experiencing the real communities that are there. So we think that's really important, giving back.
That is really important. A couple of years ago, I saw a news clip on France 24, which is like this news station out of Europe. But long story short, I found this news station when I was traveling in Portugal, and it was the only English-speaking news I could find. And I've been watching it ever since. And so I was watching France 24. I don't know, this is maybe 2 years ago now, and they were talking about a popular destination in Mexico for yoga retreats that I'll leave unnamed for now because I don't want people out there to be like, probably. Everyone just use your imaginations. Yeah. But long story short, this particular destination is marketed as like eco-friendly, and yoga studios and all these companies are saying like, come, eco-friendly resort, do yoga, connect with nature. But actually what's happening is they're tearing down the fucking jungle. So I'm getting upset. It drives me crazy. They're tearing down the jungle for all the trash for these resorts. So you go to these quote eco-friendly places and it's not the yogis' fault, right? They think they're doing something good. They think they're going somewhere that's like helping the environment and that's sustainable. But really what's happening is it's ruining the jungle. And then of course there's also crime organizations who then are illegally tearing down the jungle to build more resort space and stuff like that. So it's really important for people, to know where you're going, and also don't just go and, like you say, throw money around and then peace out. Be there.
It's a really hard balance. It really is, because obviously the places that are popular are the places people want to go, and they're beautiful. But we've been to the place that you're talking about, and we wouldn't go back just for those same reasons. We want to feel like we're doing more good than harm. And you can tell by the way that communities treat you when you come in, whether they want you there or not. And so, of course, it's great to bring money into these communities and jobs, hopefully. But you can tell when it's like, you know, maybe going a little too far, and there's a really hard balance. And we just went to Bali, and of course there's some of that going on as well. We've talked to some of the locals, and they say, of course, tourism, it's good and bad. You know, there's really both sides to the coin. But we purposely went out of our way to find a resort that was really doing their part and really, you know, plastic free, not contributing to the waste issues that come up when you have large tourism, and giving back to the community. So I know it's possible, but it's a balance, and you kind of have to do due diligence and put the work in to find the places that are really trying, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
And they are out there, and hopefully there will be more and more of a trend going that way, because I feel like
that's true.
The whole thing, you know, the whole benefit of yoga is, you know, building awareness and towards yourself and everything else around you. So I feel like a lot of yogis are going to eventually, you know, be mindful of that as well. Like, where are they actually staying in their yoga retreat or during their yoga retreat? And I'm really excited for our next one. We're going back to Mexico, this place I mentioned, and they didn't even use machines to build anything. So they try to keep
that's crazy.
the jungle intact as much as they could, and just set up a few little, you know, bamboo kind of hut.
They're oddly luxury hut.
This is your luxury stick hut.
No nails were used.
Well, and you know, I don't want folks out there listening to think that I'm like dogging yoga studios or yoga practitioners who go to these places, because I actually think that the people who book these retreats and the people who go on them, they don't even know, right? Yeah. They don't know at all. And they're trying to do the right thing. But I don't remember which one of you said it, but I think you hit the nail on the head that this practice develops mindfulness and awareness. And part of that means, sure, learning your body and your breath, but also doing, like you said, your due diligence, knowing where your money goes. Can you be mindful and aware in everything that you do?
Yeah, which is obviously hard, and the world we live in makes it hard. But you know, you can only do your best, and doesn't mean you're not going to go buy your coffee and get a to-go cup. So it's just like you do what you can. And,
that's been a recurring theme on Dharma Drops podcast over and over and over again. We've brought this up, guests and I, that awareness is key, but there is only so much we can do in the world at one given time. So you just do the best you can with what you've got. And luckily we have the internet, so we can look things up too.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Becky.
Oh, hey, Danny.
How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
Did I catch you meditating?
No, I was just about to say, oh my God, have you seen the new Dharma Drops 3 mala bracelet from Spiritual Junkies?
Oh my gosh, aren't they amazing?
Amazing.
Amazing.
Oh, amazing. Oh, Danny, you're good.
I know. I try. Did you hear about the new code for Dharma Drops listeners?
No, what is it?
15% off with code Dharma Drops.
So you're telling me if people go to spiritualjunkies.com and use the promo code Dharma Drops, DharmaDrops, they can get 15% off their next purchase.
That's right.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So I have the Dharma Drops 3 and tons of other bracelets from the spiritualjunkies.com site, and I can't wait to get more. So that means if you go to spiritualjunkies.com, spiritualjunkies, spell that without looking at it, .com, you can save 15% on a single purchase using the promo code Dharma Drops, DHARMADROPS. Do you dream of an adventurous yet blissful kind of yoga? And do you want to spend a fun weekend on the water? If so, Longwave Yoga is excited to take your practice outdoors and bring you a full spectrum stand-up paddleboard yoga workshop and teacher training. The SUP yoga workshop and teacher training at Longwave Yoga is geared towards offering you the knowledge and skills in SUP equipment, SUP basics and techniques, how to monitor weather patterns and chart tides, knot tying and anchoring, water safety and rescue, and adapting and sequencing yoga on a paddleboard. Join Longwave Yoga in this unique 2.5-day training on the beautiful Intracoastal Waterway in Wilmington, North Carolina on May 8th through 10th, 2020. Eligible participants can receive 22 CEU hours upon completion. Learn more at longwaveyoga.com. That's LONGWAVEYOGA.com. longwaveyoga.com. In terms of making yoga retreats accessible, I'm pretty interested in this because I could definitely see why someone would be like, I'm not advanced enough to go on a yoga retreat. So can you share a little bit about what it is that you do to make yoga retreats accessible?
Should I go for it?
Sure.
Do it.
Thanks.
Do it.
Okay. Thank you. We try to balance out our schedule really well so that we offer all sorts of classes that people can pick and choose from. So even if, let's say, we get a student who is a little bit older or has an injury, there was a couple that the woman wanted to bring her husband and he has never really done yoga before. He would have still felt like he got something out of it if he took every evening class. Yeah. So, he would just take the restorative class and skip the morning classes. But if you know me and Devon and the way we teach, we are just really accessible teachers and we like to move slow and explain things and make everything just really fun. And if you feel like you can't do it, you skip it. That's totally fine. And that's part of the practice too, listening to your body and taking rest when you need it. But what I think is really cool is just this schedule that we created where we do have a little bit more of a vigorous or the vinyasa flow, let's call it, in the morning, and then a restorative or yin at night. So people can pick and choose, and everyone surprises themselves too. Like, for example, my mom came to one of our retreats.
That's
and
sweet.
It was really sweet, yes. And she has had 2 hip replacements. And I thought she would skip out on a lot of the classes. And I was so proud of her. By the end of the week, she had done every single class. And I mean, it was just amazing. Like, it's just, people really just, you don't even know what your body can do until you actually try.
Yeah.
So.
And I think too, going back to the conversation earlier, I don't know if taking out all of life's stress and to-do lists can make our bodies do things that it couldn't do regularly, but without all that chatter, it's easier to listen and experience all of that too. Because it's really easy to be like, my hip hurts, I got to go to the grocery store, I got 800 things to do. It's another thing to be like, my hip's bothering me, but I'm here. Let's see what I can do,
I feel like every time someone surprises us too, because some people we know, and some people are friends of a friend, or they find us online and they'll email us with those kind of questions. Like, even last time we had a woman who was like, I really want to get into yoga. I've just never done it. Like, will I be okay? And she surprised us to no end. Like, by day 5, she was like up in a handstand. I'm like, wait, what is that? And she was in her 50s. We were helping
It's
her,
awesome.
but it just means that, she kind of threw any expectations out the window, any fears. I'm just like, I want to get into yoga, so I'm just going to throw myself in and see what happens. I should check in with her actually and see if she's still been going, but she was just having the best time. Whereas I personally would never have thought, oh yeah, she'll be doing handstand by the end of the week, So it's so amazing every time they impress themselves and they impress us too. We learn from them.
That's the best part of teaching, is how much I learn from my students too. Whether I'm teaching English or teaching yoga, or if I'm recording a podcast with someone or whatever I'm doing, it's so amazing how much we can learn from other people. It's so cool. And I guess too, I keep saying this because it's true, that goes back to what we were saying earlier about that connection too. When you are, and when I say stuck, I don't mean a bad way, when you're stuck with this same group of people, you're really just forced to start sharing experiences, learning from each other. That's what you're doing for the week.
Yeah, people get very open very quickly.
Now, one thing that's always really interesting about yoga is how much people will disclose to their yoga teachers.
Part therapist with no training. So
it's true. I swear.
I love it.
I've never been a bartender, but I think it's like being a bartender where like the same people come every night and you're like, oh, we're working through this problem tonight,
That's true. I used to be a bartender actually, and this is better because they're sober usually. So they make more sense.
A little bit more rational.
To talk to. Yeah, usually, you never know.
That's so funny. And so I also want to note too, because you guys had mentioned that you work to make your yoga retreats accessible in terms of money, which is really interesting to me, because one of my major complaints about yoga stuff sometimes, and I understand businesses have to make money. I totally get it. Man, this stuff's like out of my budget sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a little crazy. And obviously they're popular and there's a market for it. So, resorts know that too. And most places are, expensive for sure. This is not something that everybody can do. But I think we find places that are the right balance where, they might not be 5-star. Well, sometimes they are, but they might not be the 4 seasons, but we find places that are somewhat in the middle where, there's this like jungle luxury kind of thing going on. And then, I think we try and price it fairly, and depends on the person too. Like we've given out scholarships and, tried to kind of be on a sliding scale. If somebody really wants to come, we try and make it work. Where, and we're not a big company. So there is that. We don't work with outside companies anymore. They take a cut. So it just doesn't make sense. We just do it all ourselves. So that makes a big difference. But yeah, we would love to get to a place where, we're so popular, we can like give away a retreat now and then, or, something like that. Sponsor people.
I want to be first in line. I want to be first in line for that.
I shouldn't say this over the air because now we're just going to get like, can I be your sponsor?
Let's just get one thing straight, listeners. I'm first, back up. And that's the end of the story.
For everyone.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. And that's going to be blasted live across the world. Yes. It's called sarcasm, people.
Yeah. Oh, God. And that was the last interview of Colibri Yoga Retreats.
Yes. You guys are funny. I feel like we'd have a lot of fun on the yoga retreat together.
That's true.
So you guys said you just got back from Bali, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's on my bucket list. Can you just tell me, what'd you guys do in Bali so I can just live vicariously through you guys?
We did so much. Devon was there for a whole month, right?
Yeah.
You were there for a month?
I just, went for it. It was the same thing. It was like on my bucket list, and it's so far away. I don't know if it's closer to North Carolina, but it's far away from here. So yeah, I hung out with a lot of monkeys. It was really like one of my most favorite things was just there's monkeys in the most random places that will like take your sunglasses and your smoothie, and they're just
they'll rip your face off. I'm just saying.
People kept saying that, but we didn't see any proof of that.
Okay, so I was in India. This is a few years ago, and we were in, gosh, I think at that point we were in Dharamshala, like where the Dalai Lama lives, and it's kind of a long story. I'm going to keep this as brief as possible. But there were like all these cute little monkeys in a tree, and it was starting to go down. And I was taking pictures. This was just long enough ago that like I wasn't using a cell phone to take pictures. So it was back like the last days of the digital camera. So I guess it's been more than a few years ago. Time's really weird. I don't know. It could have been 16 million years ago. I have no idea. But in any case, the sun's going down. I'm taking these pictures and the sun goes down just enough so that the automatic flash goes off. And the damn flash goes off in front of these baby monkeys, and mama monkey is like, Bia, and she gets down out of that tree and she starts screaming at me. So my friend has a piece of corn on the cob and she's like, oh my God, and hands the stupid monkey a piece of corn on the cob.
Oh no.
And that monkey played me. It would probably just want our food. But the best part is you can see, if you go through all the pictures on the digital camera, you can see the monkey, like baby monkeys. You can see mama monkey. You can see blurry corn on the cob, my feet, and then we're out.
Oh no.
It was terrifying. So I'm glad you had the better experience in Bali.
I
with
don't know why I love them so much. What were your highlights, Juliet?
The retreat honestly was my highlight. Obviously.
That was the best part. Better than the monkeys.
That was the best part. But yeah, I mean, just traveling around and hanging out with the locals and learning so much about the culture. Everyone is so open and friendly, and I think that's why Bali is such a destination for people, because there are prettier beaches in the world for sure, but it makes it, the culture, the people make it so extremely special that you can feel it. You can just feel the energy in the air. It's just incredible. We were so sad to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the best part of traveling for me is the people, like just meeting people of different cultures. Because I mean, honestly, look, it's fine. People do yoga. Why people do yoga? I get it. The last thing I feel like doing is going halfway across the world and hanging out. I mean, look, my name's Rebecca. I'm white. People call me Becky. So that's about as basic as it gets. The last thing I feel like doing is sitting around with another me, just the same version of me and talking to that person. I mean, it's cool to be together, but to not experience the vastness of the world, that's like a huge loss if we don't do that.
Yeah, totally. We were blown away by the culture there. The people are so giving, and they make, what did they say? Like the average person makes $7 a day or something like that. And they will offer you, they're just so open and giving, and they want to talk. They want to know all about you and your life. And you're like, what? It's just amazing to me that they are so welcoming to us, because in a way I'm like embarrassed. Yeah. I'm like, oh, we're the white people coming in. Are we ruining everything? And, maybe we are in some way, but they don't, they seem very genuinely happy to just be helpful in whatever job that they're doing.
And I think they're also just genuinely happy. That's what it is. Yeah. Like they are literally just content. They are content. Mm-hmm. And we've talked to so many people that, grew up there and have never left, and they're happy to just live there on this island.
Yeah. And I guess I should clarify, because I'm all like, I don't want to sit around with another white person. That's not true,
No.
first of all, but like,
I get it.
I think it's important to note too, though, that it's a global world, and there is a lot of like, oh God, am I just another white person coming in here and like ruining things? We do live in a global world, and like, this is an opportunity in this lifetime to be able to pretty easily experience the world. I mean, at one point in history, trying to get over to Bali was like not gonna happen,
Right.
So I mean, it's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to travel, and it's an opportunity to connect. That's the whole point of all this yoga stuff anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with us being aware of our place in it all. So it's okay to feel like you don't want to be the jerk, which is
we're
good
not
to be aware
jerks.
of.
You're not a jerk. Yeah.
I don't think we're the problem. I don't, but
no.
Did do a beach cleanup there as well at our resort that we were staying at, and they already have people cleaning up the beach like for a kilometer in front of the resort, but you just walk like 2 steps further and there was so much garbage, and locals that are just they have their own little bar on the beach, and they see it, but so they saw us coming and cleaning it up, and I felt like that was a really kind of an interesting moment, just walking around the locals and being like, okay, here, I'm going to clean up your garbage,
Yeah,
but
that's sweet. That's a nice act of service that you did.
Yeah, it was totally, it was so worth it. Like, we didn't even go for that much for that long, and we had like 7 bags of garbage, so it's pretty, it's also kind of sad, obviously, but it's again like the giving back and doing our part, doing what you can with what you got.
Well, and it felt like I felt a little defeated almost, because you could tell a lot of it was coming from the ocean, because it was on the the tide line that would come in. And so in a way I was like, oh my, this is just going to happen again tomorrow. And we didn't go that far. We didn't get that much. But I was like, okay, well, if we can inspire one other person that is staying at the nice, resort to come do this tomorrow, then that's great. And then maybe they inspire one person. And like, if every day someone comes out here, I don't know, makes a small change. And yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
That's true. That woman did come up to us and she said, where did you get the bags from?
where do I sign up?
How do I sign up for this?
How do I pick up trash?
Yeah. This looks like so much fun. It was also like 88 degrees with like 92% humidity. So it's hard to last very long out there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you guys bring up a whole other point, which is like a different podcast episode for a different day. But living on the coast, beach pollution, God, that's like a whole other thing to talk about. We have a really amazing organization here called the Plastic Ocean Project. They're known all over the place. You may have heard of them. Uh-huh. Yeah. And they're housed right here in Wilmington, North Carolina, and working to get plastic out of the ocean because it is a major problem.
Everywhere. I know. So, and we're lucky enough that there are organizations here that do that. Cause we live by the ocean. It takes us an hour to get there, but it's not like I'm going down there on my weekends to do beach cleanups, that maybe I should, but yeah.
So ladies, one thing that we did not talk about that maybe we should have even started with, can you guys share with the Dharma Drops audience, how did you even get started practicing yoga? Because we know that you're traveling the world and teaching people all over the world, but how did you get into the practice? Juliet, we'll start with you.
Okay. So I actually started yoga, or I took my first yoga class, I should say, when I was probably about, I want to say like 15 or 16. And it was back then, my dad brought me along. And I was way too young and rebellious to understand what it was all about. And I can't even remember what kind of class it was, but I feel like it was something kind of hippy dippy and like way too awkward for a teenager to understand what was going on. And like oming and mudras and like, no, I hate this. So I rebelled against it for a little while. And then I actually started, so a little backstory, I grew up in Germany and then I moved to New York, and my sister lives in Brooklyn. So she took me to Bikram yoga. And I kind of got into that, living in New York, the cold winter, and, like the hot room. And it was pretty intense. And it was the first time that I even experienced anything like, paying attention to your breath or being present. And I was probably about 22 at that point, or maybe 23. And I kind of really got into it really quickly. And I was like an addict for 3 years and went to Bikram every single day. And, now, of course, I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with that practice. Like it's, I know what the guy has done, but it is still good. It was just the intensity that I needed at that age, at that time in my life.
Sure.
Because it was working, in the fashion world, fashion photography. I was my sister's assistant, and, we had long nights and, just hard days. And it was just the right distraction for me, or the right, the opposite than a distraction, but to get me to drop in. And so when I got so into the practice, I kind of felt like I wanted to do a teacher training. And I was really one of those people that was like, oh yeah, but I just want to do it to deepen my practice and learn more about yoga. But I also knew that I didn't want to do a Bikram training. So then I did a more traditional vinyasa or power vinyasa training in 2011. And I kind of, I moved to Colorado for 3 months to do the training. And when I moved back to New York, I was done with photography. I didn't want to be an assistant anymore. I didn't want to work those hours anymore. And I was like, I'm just going to see if I can make this work. And I started teaching yoga kind of immediately, and just did like donation classes. And, I got my friends to sign up for some privates for really cheap, and, just to get the hang of things. And now I've been teaching for like 9 years.
Wow. I feel like that's the age-old story. When I went into yoga teacher training, I was a full-time English instructor at UNC Wilmington. I was like, I'm not teaching yoga. I just want to deepen my practice. And by the time it was over, I was like, nope, I don't want to teach English anymore. I don't want to do this at all.
Right. Yeah. Once you know how good your body can feel, you're just like, why don't I want to feel like this always?
So I have to ask you, I just talked about this in an episode I recorded that I haven't aired yet, because I just recorded it the other day. Did you watch the Bikram documentary? Did either of you watch it on Netflix?
Oh yeah.
I actually haven't seen it yet, but I've been to like a podcast thing before. Yeah.
The documentary on Netflix is pretty good. You should check it out. And for those of you listening, if you haven't watched it yet, you need to watch it, because it's something. Let me tell you what. And it's weird because, like you said, it's a love-hate relationship. And, I think he did a lot of good for the yoga communities in terms of like teaching asana and like showing that how good you can feel in your body. But there's some weird stuff going on in that documentary. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly,
at this point, you have to separate. If you're still doing the practice, you have to separate the practice from the person. Yeah. I can't imagine knowing any of that and still even using his name, honestly, on your at your studio, or supporting him, that's what I found so amazing about it, is that people still are sticking by him and paying for his teacher trainings.
It's so weird. I don't understand the human psyche at all.
I know.
Mm-hmm. So Devon, how did you get to the yoga practice?
So let's see. I had taken classes here and there in my early 20s, at the gym or whatever, and kind of similar, I was like, oh, this is boring, or it's too easy, or something like that. And I think I just wasn't ready for it. And my mom actually took me to my first Bikram class. And I
love that both of you, it was a parent.
I know, isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Yeah.
So funny. And same idea. I think I needed that at the time, I think I was mid-20s by then. I needed that intensity to feel something, almost like I needed to feel that much to feel like I was getting a release. And I didn't do Bikram all the time, but I really loved hot yoga. So I started going more regularly during college. I went to college a little bit later in life.
Me too.
Oh, good. I love that. Yeah, it really helped me. I had always, as a teenager and early 20s, I'd always dealt with depression, anxiety. I was working in bars, so I was drinking a lot and just generally unhappy. And, when you're in it, you can't really see how to get out of it. But somehow I found my way to yoga, and I say that it saved my life. I really don't know where I would be if I didn't end up, starting a practice. And it didn't mean that it was a cure, or that like, oh, all of a sudden all my worries and troubles are gone, or all of a sudden I'm a healthy person, because it just gradually changed over time. And so I had gone to college in San Diego, and when I graduated, I ended up moving up here to Los Angeles. And I remember looking up yoga studios when I moved here and thinking to myself, I'm only going to do yoga. That's what I'm going to do every day. Like, I don't need a gym. I just want to find my studio and find my practice. And so I was pretty consistent with it for, 5 or 6 years. And same thing that, a lot of us say or said, and I hear students say it all the time. Oh, I don't want to do teacher training. I don't want to teach yoga. It's so interesting. And it definitely came from a place of, I could never do that. I can't speak in public. I'm not them. They are up on this pedestal in my mind. Like, they're perfect. They, must be all vegan and they don't drink. And they're just, that's not me. I could never do that. So at some point though, I was like, but I do want to learn. I want to learn about why this is making me feel so much better. Why is this changing my life? Why am I choosing at night? My same friends I always went out with. Do you want to go out tonight? Nope. I have to go to class in the morning. What an amazing shift. And so I did teacher training around the same time as Juliet, I think early 2012. And it's like when you find the path that you're supposed to be on, it just is easy, or at least
it unfolds.
That's how it should be. So I just kind of kept following the path, and I never made any big decisions of like, when I'm done with teacher training, I'm going to start teaching. It just kind of happened. And then it grew from there, and I didn't go right into full-time teaching. But gradually over time, I would give up a bar shift and take a couple more classes and be okay that wasn't really, equal monetary wise, and just kind of like, okay, I'm going to make this work. And so, now I teach full time, and, we love teaching, obviously, but there's something so special about leading the retreats. It's really just one of my favorite things to do. So it's nice to be able to combine, our love for teaching, our love for people, our love for travel. It all goes together. So yeah.
And you're an amazing teacher, Devon.
Oh, thanks. You too.
So then you guys did your teacher training and you started teaching yoga, changed your whole lives, and that brings you to launching your retreat business. So can you just share for a moment, how did that really happen? I know like you guys said you love people and teaching and travel, but at what point were you guys like, all right, we're going to do this?
Yeah, we had been talking about it for a long time. So Devon and I have a really cute history. Like I don't even remember not ever being her friend. We met and we were friends like immediately. And I think we had been talking about it for a while, and it was always this kind of thing, like, yeah, someday. And I don't know what exactly I was waiting for, it's just this like, oh, I'm not there yet, still kind of, looking up to the people that are doing the retreats, and oh yeah, but they have this big following, and and it was really Devon that gave like the last little push. He was like, why don't we just try it? Like, let's just do it. And
like the worst that could happen is no one signs up for it, I guess.
Yes. If you don't do like my dad always says, my dad's always full of these like weird things. He's like, but if you don't do it, you'll never know. You know what I mean? Which is like so silly and like dad sounding, but it is so true. If you don't do it, you won't know. You won't know if it would have worked.
I say that in class even about the poses. Like, you have to try it.
Exactly. And the unknown is always scary because you just don't know.
Right.
But then once you do it, it's not that scary. So we at first started with like a third party that would help organize retreats. And I think we did, how many did we do with them, Devon?
Just two. Just two. Before we realized that we needed to have control. The second one, there were some hiccups, and it wasn't our fault. It was the organization we were working with, and basically the resort canceled on us the night before the retreat.
Oh my God, this happened to me with my study abroad when I was leading.
No way.
Yes.
That is really stressful.
That's when the yoga comes to work. Because it's all about the way you react to it too. Because if we had been I think it was much easier because we were together. If it had just been one of us, it would have been a lot to handle. But if we had been total stress cases, then it would have ruined it. People feed off of your energy. But we were calm. We went with the flow. Every time we got bad news, we were like, okay, new plan. And everyone still had the best time, even though it was like a total shit show.
Yeah.
So now you guys run things on your own, which here's the way I feel about these things. If you just want things done right, you got to do it yourself.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. For sure. And so now you guys are headed to where? I'm sorry, you already said Mexico. Is that right?
Sayulita, Mexico. Yeah. Cute little town.
And so if the Dharma Drops listeners wanted to join you on this retreat, how could they find more about it?
Oh, please come with us. And if you do want more info, you can either email us, but I should spell it, because it is a Spanish word. So Colibri is COLIBRI, and then yoga retreats @gmail.com or colibriyogaretreats.com, and you'll find all the information on our website, but you can always reach out to us with questions. It's just Juliet and I, and we are very prompt at getting back to anybody that reaches out. Or you can even follow us on Instagram.
Awesome. And what's your Instagram?
@Colibri Yoga Retreats.
Perfect. So Colibri Yoga Retreats is where to go, Dharma Drops listeners. If you want to travel with these ladies, which it seems like it would be a pretty good time. You guys are funny. So before we wrap things up here, are there any big takeaways that you ladies think the Dharma Drops audience should know? There's one big thing that we need to remember about yoga and travel. What would that be?
I guess it is that life is short, so you might as well make the best of it and have, the best experiences that you can. And I think that our retreats would be one of them.
Yeah, it sounds like it for sure.
I used to be that kind of person that would just wait, put things off, put it on a list in the back of my mind. And now I feel like I'm the person that's just like, nope, I'm doing it. Want to do it? Buy the ticket, click on the whatever, I'm going. And I don't know. I feel like it's just a better way to live. But I'll also just be a good person, do good things, do yoga.
Be kind, take care of each other.
I think these things are not rocket science, but for some reason they're so hard to remember.
It's true.
I don't know why.
Yeah, we're human. And it's a crazy world out there. So just do what you can to stay sane. And that's all we can do.
Absolutely. Okay, guys. So if you want to learn more about the retreats, you can head over to the show notes at dharmadropspodcast.com, and there'll be more information there with links to all of their social media websites and beyond. Guys, thanks so much for being a part of Dharma Drops podcast. What a fun hour we've had together.
Thank you.
Really,
You're
thank
such a
you.
great host.
I want to meet you in person now.
Thanks.
Come to LA.
I feel like I'd be eaten alive in LA.
I mean, you could just visit.
Yeah,
nothing bad will happen.
I'm sure there's a lot of amazing stuff there, but I watch really terrible reality television that all takes place in LA. And I'm like, how do you live your life there?
Oh, yeah. It's not all like that. I know. You just find your pockets, you find your people. It's such a great big city that there's really anything that you can think of, good and bad.
I promise you there's more there than Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm certain of that.
Well, that's true, but it is beautiful there. That beach is amazing.
Wrightsville Beach is very beautiful.
Yeah.
I do call it the no fun beach because you can't drink. You got to pay like $3 an hour to park. You can't have your dog. There's like all these rules, but it is very beautiful. So last thing before we really wrap things up here, and you guys are probably gonna think I'm crazy, I just want to give a little shout out to my dog Hank. Today, our recording day, is his 5th birthday.
Happy birthday,
Hank.
Thanks. Hank says thanks. Hank has recorded almost every podcast episode with me, and all the Dharma Drops listeners have heard about Hank about 1,000 times. So just a big special shout out to my little Frenchie.
Ooh, I can't wait to look up a picture.
He on Instagram right now, there's a picture of him for his birthday. You can check it out.
Will do.
Awesome. All right, guys. You know where to find me. Instagram at Dharma Drops Podcast and online at dharmadropspodcast.com. And until we meet again next time, bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Dharma Drops. Just as a reminder, for as little as $2 a month, you can get exclusive podcasts, swag, merch, yoga classes, meditations, and more by becoming a supporter on Patreon. Just head over to patreon.com/Dharma Drops. As always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Dharma Drops Podcast on whatever app you're listening on. It's a great way to show your support, as well as a great way to share the podcast with others. And to see all of the Dharma Drops offerings, including the weekly card readings, the shop, and more, just head over to dharmadropspodcast.com. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. Bye.